Hello everybody, and welcome back to Aero League Racing Tier 2. My name is Aman, and you all join me today for what should be a very exciting race. We head down to Brazil, Sao Paulo, for what should be a very interesting race in store for you all today. 36 laps around this circuit, and while we have the chance and we wait for the rest of the drivers to join up, why not look through the standings? So, at this current moment, Bambino leads the championship in the driver's standings with 103 points. We have Trems in P2 with 61 points, and we have Saeed Al-Falasi in P3 with 51. We have Ishtar in P4 with 50 points, and we have Alu in P5 with 45 points. So the championship battle is definitely been pretty much extended with an almost 40-point advantage between P1 and P2. And rounding off the top 10, we have Jaguar, Hyped, DDK, Rigo, and Jag Kings. And that rounds off your driver standings. Looking at the constructor standings, we have Williams leading the championship with 103 points, all simultaneously from Bambino, as a matter of fact. We have Alfa Romeo in P2 with 75 points. We have AlphaTauri in P3 with 61. Followed by Red Bull in P4 with 59 points, who are tied with Alpine in P5 with 59 points as well. And the rest of the bottom five would include Haas, Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston Martin, and McLaren. So, as we wait for the rest of the drivers to join up, we are all set to get the Brazilian Grand Prix underway, so get yourselves comfortable, maybe grab yourself something nice to eat or drink, grab a loved one, and we should be getting started very soon. I apologize I didn't get to these messages sooner. Hello, official Aero League Racing channel. Hello, Saeed. Good to see you as always. Back to back Saeed posts incoming. I can't wait to see that. I'm not too sure about Saeed's pace around Brazil, but I'm sure it's very promising. Hello, Aman. It is I, Aero League Racing. Hello, Aero League Racing. It is I, Aman. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. Please sit back and enjoy the stream, if you will. Hello, Ross. Good to see you as always. I am me. Are you fine? I and Aman. It's good to see you as well, Hope you all are doing well. I look forward to seeing how you perform this race, Don't let the Mercedes team or me down. No pressure or anything, of course. I guess while we wait for the rest of the drivers to join up, we can talk a bit about the track. So Brazil, unpredictable weather here, as we all may or may not know. High chance of rain always at Brazil, so it'll be interesting to see if any of the drivers have actually made adjustments to prepare for the rain and to drive under wet conditions. As we can see here, Trems coming in with the no practice, nothing but respect for that. But I'm sure some of the drivers have some setups or something in place just in case of some wet weather, which is always very highly expected here at Brazil. Talking about the track itself, a lot of tight and twisty sections. You might want to find a good balance between downforce and top speed acceleration, because you do have some very good overtaking opportunities. Realistically, Brazil is a track where you can expect an overtake on almost any corner And as is the case with most league races, people will send it down every corner they get the chance to. So I think we should be in store for Let It Not Rain. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to a wet race either, but again, we never really know for sure when it comes to Brazil. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, we have gotten the go-ahead from Pyro to get the race underway. Hello, Nocturne. Good to see you as always. But yes, we have gotten the go-ahead from Pyro to get the race underway. So as we wait for the rest of the drivers to ready up, we're all set to get the Brazilian Grand Prix underway. 36 laps around this circuit, so there's going to be plenty of racing action in store for us today. I'm not too sure what's the expected, how many safety cars or virtual safety cars we'll be expecting this race. I don't think there's going to be many, just because of the fact that there's only a handful of places I can realistically imagine that, there would be a car stuck out on track after getting destroyed, but I've been proven wrong before. 3 safety cars is the call from so I guess we'll have to see how's it gonna go. Hopefully a 4 in a row podium. Saeed, my prayers are with you, dog. I hope you do well, man. I'm gonna like the little tiny hearts that just fall in from the right. And calling out Saeed, telling him that he's going to try to stop him. I don't know if he means by taking him out or by actually getting past him on track, but I'm sure regardless, whatever has planned, it's going to be great. And we're going to get some good entertainment out of it. It's been a hot minute since I started doing comms again, so I'll see if I can hopefully keep up with the action. Here's to hoping I do. Right then, who will be the first driver to go out on track today? Will it rain? It does not seem to be like it's raining in qualifying, at least. I would prefer if a driver in oh, it won't rain. Not even in the race, knock. Do you have insider info from one of the drivers out on track at the moment? No, not this time around. Alright, I didn't even get a chance to see who's the first car out on track, but it does seem to be like Alu in the Alfa Romeo is going to be leading the charge as he leaves the rest of the cars out on track to go through their initial outlaps. Maybe next stream, Mitchell. You just got to remind me a few minutes beforehand so I don't forget. Riding on board with Alu, we'll get an idea of what's to come in the circuit, though I'm pretty sure everyone's very, very familiar with this track already, as it's a very well-known, renowned circuit. But Alu will be running us through the initial outlap, and will hopefully be setting the first timed run of the day, and we'll see what kind of benchmark he can set for the rest of the drivers following behind him. We do have a Ferrari, and I want to say that is Ishtar. So we have Ishtar, and Alu were the top first 3 cars to begin their time lapse. And it seems like actually managed to get past Ishtar on the outlaps, so he'll definitely be setting a time before everybody else. But now then, riding on board with Alu as he's coming down the pit straight at the moment. 2 DRS zones around this track, one down the pit straight and then one after one nearing the end of sector 1. But riding on board with Alu, he begins his first time lap here at Sao Paulo. Coming into turn 1, will he keep it nice and tidy? It's very easy to lose the car here if you're going on the power too quickly, but on this occasion, Alu looks like he's absolutely nailed it and keeping it as much to the left as possible to minimize the amount of time it takes to get across this track. And now heading down towards the end of Sector 1, he set a 17.1 as a benchmark through Sector 1, obviously the first DRS zone. And we can see Hyped has managed to join us for this session, so good for us. We can see he does have a Haas in front of him, and we're going to be hopeful that is that the Haas? No, I mean, it may not be the Haas. No, it is the Haas, yeah. So we do see he does have a Haas in front of him, which has managed to get out of the way. Hopefully it didn't impede his lap times or anything. Now coming towards the end of Sector 2. Sector 3 being just basically the entire, just one left turn followed by the entirety of the DRS zone. But obviously we'll have to see what sort of times Alu can set for himself. He is near the top of the Drivers' Championship. Obviously not necessarily fighting for the title at the moment. Comes across the line, sets a 108.8. And we saw Erm was P2 right behind him. Comes across the line. What time will he set? Sets a 108.85. Only 200s behind Alu on this occasion, as we see Ishtar actually deciding to come back into the pits and abandoning his lap. We see Groot setting a 109.0, slightly off the pace as compared to the rest of the drivers. Jaguar setting a 108.8 as well. So the top three separated by not more than roughly 5/10ths at the current moment. See Prime Tomcat's on a run of his own. Pyro as well, coming towards the end of his run. Luckily for us, hasn't invalidated his lap as of yet, but coming towards the line now. What sort of times will he be able to set? And now Pyro comes across the line, manages to set a 109.7, placing himself in P6. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2 as there's an Alfa Romeo that's slowed down. Could possibly be because he's just making some room for some of the drivers. Saeed, on the other hand, on the charge, setting a purple Sector 1 at the moment. So he seems to be on a very, very fast pace, as we see Jim, I'm just going to call you Jim, setting the provisional pole time with a 108.7 at the moment. So very impressive lap time from him, as we ride on board with Saeed coming towards the end of Sector 2. Currently P15 with no lap time set as of yet. And a 52.0, no purple sectors for him in Sector 2. So now then Saeed Al-Falasi coming towards the start-finish line, setting for himself a 108.82, and he manages to promote himself up into P2 with that standings. Top 5 barely separated by about a 10th. So very, very close racing here in qualifying so far, as a lot of the drivers actually haven't gone out for their first time runs yet. A lot of them opting to stay in the pits, as we can see Ishtar, Mini, Slimmy, Jag Kings, and Bambino. Actually, Bambino currently out on an out lap of his own. Trems, on the other hand, now finishing up his lap. Will he abandon and go into the pits? He decides not to. Comes across the line and sets for himself a 109.1, placing himself up into P8. A very respectable time from his end, but he's going to need to find a few more tenths if he wants to fight on at the front of the grid. While we bring our attention to Bambino, who's coming towards the end of Sector 2 and is about to begin his first timed run. I need Bambino to win this in order to... In order to save my hair, though. Is there some sort of bet on the line? And now we ride on board with Bambino as he begins his first timed lap here at Sao Paulo. So we know how fast he is, or how fast he's been through the season, leading the championship by a considerable margin of points. And he's actually just decided to go right back into the pits, choosing to abandon his laps at the current moment. Not too sure why, but alas, that is the decision that he's made. Jack Kings currently out on his out lap as well. And it seems like Saeed is ready to go for round 2 as he go. You were going to shave your head if Bambino doesn't win the Tier 2 championship. Yeah, that's quite a lot you're putting on the line. Riding on board with Saeed, who is currently in P3, we saw Alu managing to set himself a 108.799. Managing to place himself in P2, just 100th behind Jim at the current moment. Saeed, on the other hand, on a charge of his own. No purple Sector 1 for him. See, Erm's also currently out on his run. I'm not sure if he improved on this occasion. I don't think he did. I think he might have just started his time run. You can see Saeed currently half a tenth up on his current lap time. If you can just find that extra bit of pace, then you should be all set to maybe take provisional pole. We do have a yellow flag in Sector 1 as one of the Haas's seem to have retired from the circuit. That's probably going to be the end of their runs. I believe it was Prime Tomcat who has unfortunately retired from the session. But now, bringing our attention back to the person on camera, Saeed Al-Falasi with DRS wide open, coming towards the start-finish line. Will he be able to take provisional pole away from Jim? No. Yes, he will. 108.6. He goes almost 1.5 tenths faster than Jim and manages to promote himself up into P1. A very respectable time from Saeed, and it's incredible how close this battle is between some of these drivers. As we can see Erm getting a bit squirrely on that exit there. That's definitely cost him as he comes down this long run towards the start finish line. And with DRS wide open, will Erm be able to challenge Saeed right back for provisional pole? Comes across the line, sets a 108.3, 3 tenths faster than Saeed Al-Falasi, and almost 3 tenths. Oh wow, that was incredibly quick. I didn't even realize. I just thought that he kept a very close time to Saeed, but no. Ishtar seemingly out of nowhere setting a 108.323, 1/100th faster than Erm, and managing to promote himself up into P1. So the battle for provisional pole continues here at Sao Paulo. The Saeed pole is up for grabs, definitely. I think granted the pace that he's showing so far, and with 9 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in qualifying, I wouldn't be surprised if we could be looking at a Saeed pole by the end of this lap, at the end of qualifying. But realistically, I think my money is always going to be on Bambino. Wait, never mind. Bambino actually retired from the session. What happened there? Did he have a penalty to serve? Because everything seemed to be going fine. Get the fraud in Tier 1 already. As you can see, Jim has unfortunately invalidated his lap time. And Erm and Ishtar will most likely be coming back into the pits. No, Erm actually going for a second run. So Ishtar deciding to come back into the pits after setting his pole lap. Erm deciding to stick one more lap out. Still a second off of Barak's pace. Bambino doing last to first. Apparently the disrespect on that is crazy. And you can see DDK unfortunately has also invalidated his lap. Pyro currently on an outlap of his own is sitting in P14 with a 109.7. He's going to need to find a lot of time if he's looking to compete near the front of the grid. You see Jim now almost 6 tenths up on his current lap time. Or 600ths. I keep saying tenths. 600ths up on his lap time. He is currently in P4 with a 108.7. Will definitely need a few more tenths if he's looking to fight in the top 3, but anything could happen. Let's see how much time he can gain coming through Sector 2 at the moment, as he's very squarely on that exit there. You know that's going to cost him a considerable amount of time, as we see there 400ths lost. But then now he's only up by almost only 200ths. And now coming towards the line, I don't think there's going to be a dramatic improvement. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if he heads back into the pits, which is the decision that he has decided to make. Oh, really speeding into the pits there. Surprised he didn't pick up a penalty. Meanwhile, Alu, we can see almost a 10th up on his current lap time. Oh, never mind, a 10th and a half up on his current lap time. Sets a purple Sector 2. Yeah, 9,000 separating P1 and P2 at the current moment. But now Alu coming across the line. What time will he set? Sets a 108.5 and manages to promote himself up into P3. Saeed currently still in the pits, nowhere to be seen at the moment. Is sitting in P4. Currently a fan favorite in the chat, obviously. Meanwhile, Zab, a driver I haven't really spoken about throughout this session, currently sitting in P7 with a 108.8. A very respectable lap time from him as well. And he's completely out of ERS. Never mind. Trems as well. Currently P9. And roughly 2.5 tenths up on his current lap time. Has set a purple Sector 2. But even with 2.5 tenths, I don't think he's really going to be going up too much further. Maybe potential P5 as he comes across the line and sets for himself a 108.9 and only manages to promote himself up into P8. So not much of an improvement there. As we can see, Ishtar now beginning his timed run now. 6 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in qualifying, so plenty of time still remaining in this session for a lot of these drivers to come out and make their last minute runs. But as the battle continues, it's so impressive to see so many of these drivers so close together. as we ride on board with Ishtar and see what sort of potential lap times he might be setting for the competition to meet the standards of. Roses are red, Saeed's Alpine is blue, Nocturne smells like poo. Absolutely beautiful. Inspirational words there. Ishtar now almost half a tenth up on his current lap time. Is still in provisional pole. He was just looking to extend that gap as much as he possibly can. And by the looks of it, it looks like he will be able to on this occasion. As Ishtar now comes across the line, sets a 108.23, almost a tenth up on Erm. It's still a very achievable lap time for a lot of these drivers. As we can see, Saeed now, who I don't think he's on a timed run at the moment. I'm pretty sure he was down on his current lap time. We'll see as he comes towards the end of Sector 2. No, this is Alu. My apologies. Yeah, Alu almost, unfortunately, 800ths down. Oh, getting extremely squarely on the exit of that corner there. Luckily for us, he doesn't slide into the wall and damage his car. But that was extremely dangerous from him. He unfortunately invalidates his lap time as he comes back into the pits and possibly prepares for the final run. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, with only roughly 4 minutes left to go in this session, most of the drivers are back into the pits as they prepare for their final runs here in qualifying. We can see DDK currently in P13, almost up by 800ths of a second. Currently in P13 with a 109.3. Would be hoping to join his Ferrari teammate near the front of the grid. We will be keeping a close eye on the track map as we can see DK getting very squirrely on that exit as well. So a lot of the drivers going on the power a bit too quickly, but he is 3/10 up on his previous lap time. Keeping up this pace, he may potentially move himself up into the 108s, assuming that he got the final corner absolutely spot on there. DRS wide open, keeping it as left as possible and deciding to abandon his lap and choosing to go back into the pits with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. And we can see Erm now currently in P2 with a 108.3, roughly a tenth behind provisional pole at the moment. Currently out on his outlap, trying to get the jump early on the rest of the drivers to potentially move himself up a position and take pole position here at Sao Paulo. There are a few drivers who are also out on track at the moment. We can see Mini Turns, who comes across the line, sets a 109.2 and does manage to promote himself up into the top 10. We're not too sure if he's going to have enough time to maybe make it go for another run there. But we'll keep our attention on one of the front runners of this battle at the moment. We need a safe pole, says Mitch. Absolutely. Nothing would be better. Nothing would make me happier. But we'll ride on board with one of the front runners on the grid at the current moment. Erminator currently sitting in P2, only has a tenth to make up if he wants to fight for pole position. Obviously, Ishtar is most likely going to leave the pits and will be setting his own competitive lap times to help extend that advantage. But coming towards the end of Sector 1, we can see Erm almost 700ths up on his lap time. Oh, and getting very, very out of shape through that corner there. Trying to give him really driving the car on the absolute limit as we saw. Luckily for us, he does manage to keep the car in control. We'll see how he progresses through the rest of the lap, though I'm sure that's going to hinder his time dramatically. He might actually be deciding to save at the current moment. I did think I saw a flashing red light. He is deciding to save. So Erm, realizing that there's no point trying to push this lap any further, he's going to decide to save his ERS and maybe go for one more final run as we have a yellow flag in Sector 2 and 3. It seems to be the AlphaTauri. Not too sure who that is, but once again, we'll ride on board with Erm as he begins his second run around the track. Keep my eye on Ishtar, Alu, and Saeed as well. All potential front runners for pole position here at Sao Paulo. Riding on board with Erm. Seems like Ishtar's about to begin his second run, his final run very, very soon as well. I do want to see where everyone is out on track. Okay. So now then, Erm, round 2. How will he do? Roughly 300ths up on his current lap time. He got very, very out of shape here last time around. He keeps it a lot more steady this time. assuming that he can keep up this pace, Ishtar might have things to worry about if he doesn't improve. And is that a yellow flag for Ishtar? No, it isn't. It is his Ferrari teammate out on track at the moment. And riding on board with Erm, he is facing a bit of traffic in front of him. We'll see how he manages to navigate or avoid it. Hopefully he doesn't even need to, as the Alfa Romeo gets out of the way to not invalidate the Mercedes' lap time. And now Erm coming towards the end of Sector 1. He's actually 400s down on his current lap time. Needs to make up a bit of pace. I don't think it's going to be enough, assuming that last corner wasn't enough. He has that flashing red light, DRS wide open. Erminator comes across the line. Will he improve on this occasion? No, he will not. Ishtar stays in provisional pole. Ishtar now coming through the final corner of the track and heading towards the DRS zone. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see if he's up on his current lap time. However, he has set a purple Sector 2. I would not be surprised if he's up. Now then, Ishtar coming across the line. Will he extend his advantage? Yes, he will. Sets a 108.1. Now we got to keep an eye on Alu, who has unfortunately invalidated his lap time. And Saeed Al-Falasi, who has also invalidated his lap time. It doesn't look like these drivers are really going to be contending for provisional pole anymore, as time has elapsed here in qualifying. We can ride on board with trends and see that he's luckily for us keeping his lap time steady at the moment. Zabat also going, by the looks of it, incredibly slowly. Doesn't look like he's going to be setting any competitive lap times himself. Looks like Trems is going extremely slowly. Jaguar has also invalidated his lap time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there's much any other driver can really do. With that, I believe it's going to be the end. Jim actually manages to promote himself up into P3 with a 108.3, only 600ths behind his teammate. A very impressive lap time from him. And Saeed, unfortunately, drops down into P5. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is most likely the end of qualifying session here at Brazil. Ishtar manages to take pole position with a 108.1, a very impressive lap time from him. Erminator in P2 with a 108.3. His teammate Jim in the Mercedes next to him in P3 with a 108.3 himself, only 600ths behind his teammate. Alu, who unfortunately retired from the session and currently in P4 with a 108.5, and Saeed in the Alpine, currently in P5 with a 108.6. That was a very interesting qualifying session, a very, very tight qualifying session. I look forward to seeing how well this translates to the race. Obviously, we'll see if Bambino's last to first strategy works out. If it does, then I think we definitely have a problem in Tier 2, but alas, we move. Mercedes goated team, by the way. And it clearly shows P2 and P3. It's not a front grid lockout, but it's 100% very, very impressive from them. Ferrari beating Mercedes, maybe the Vettel 2018 dream is still alive. We're just hanging on to strings at this point. You're in low fuel mode. That would make sense. I was wondering why you're just going so slowly. But one last time, we get a chance to look at qualifying results. So we obviously know the top 5 trends locking up P6, Zabs in P7. We have Jaguar in P8, DDK teammates with Ishtar in P9, and Jack Kings in P10. Very, very interesting.
Hello Milsey, hello Daxi.
There's your cameo from the one and only. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, we start off the formation lap with Ishtar leading the rest of the grid as we take a look at the tires most of the drivers have chosen to put on. So P1 to P5 all running the medium tires. We can see Trems in P6 running the hards. We have DDK in P9 running the hards, and Jag Kings and Groot being the only two drivers on the grid running the softs at the moment. It's very interesting to see. So the general consensus out on track at the moment seems to be that the medium tires are the tires to be on. It'll be interesting to see how these hard and soft runners throw some variation into the track, and with pit stop strategies we'll see how they come out. Keep an eye on them to see if their undercuts or overcuts will be effective. We've gotten our predictions as well for the safety cars. 3 to 4 is what some people are saying. I'll put my faith in tier 2. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there's only gonna be, I'll say, one virtual safety car and no other safety cars. I could be completely dead wrong, but whatever. We have to trust our tier 2 boys to put on an outstanding performance for us all, as the Mercedes and the Ferrari are really not waiting for anyone. There's a bit of a gap between Jim and Alu. You're gonna have to wait out on their grid slots for a bit longer than they'd maybe like, as the rest of the grid is struggling to really catch up to the front runners. Important to remember, 36 laps around here. We still haven't gotten a pop-up showing the expected pit window, but regardless, we'll... Oh, well, speak of the devil. So one stop strategy for the hards, obviously, for lap 19 to 27 is the expected pit window if you are on the hard tire compound. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, as Bambino fills out the final grid slot and catches up to his, fills out the final grid slot, we're all set to get the Brazilian Grand Prix underway. It's been a very, very interesting and an extremely tight qualifying, as we saw earlier, with the top 5 being so close to each other. As we can see, the Red Bull there choosing to have a mind of its own and driving off by the looks of it. Not too sure who that is. I believe that may have been Jaguar, who has now been disqualified from the session. Bit awkward that, but I can't even see where he's gone. I can't even spectate him. Right then, I suppose we wait for the singular Red Bull to go around the track, and it stopped. And now it's stopped out on track. Brilliant. So I was gonna say that we're gonna have the Brazilian Grand Prix all ready to go here. Oh, as he's been bugged back into his slot now, I want to say. And Bambino has left the session and migrating host. Oh, and the session has been destroyed. Welp, so much for that, ladies and gentlemen. Well, isn't that interesting? And the race is going to be restarted. Great. As the dummy Grand Prix gets underway and Ishtar leads the front of the pack, we can see Erm trying to catch up, but no, Ishtar is unstoppable as he heads down towards turn 1. How sensational. Right, I guess we'll back out to the main menu and wait for the second invitation. I'm terribly sorry about the delay, but we're going to have to, I believe, start up a new session. As most of the drivers are messaging that the F1 race is off at the current moment and it will require a restart. So I apologize for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can get the start of the race up and running as soon as possible, hopefully without the formation lap this time, to prevent any bugs and issues. You would think with how far this game has been into release, these kind of issues would have been dealt with, but I suppose not. Okay. Alright, you don't gotta call me out like that, alright? You don't talk about that. Let it go, man. Let it go. It's okay, man. We still love you. It's not your fault. I appreciate that, Nocturne. Thank you. I needed that reassurance. Not too sure what I would have done without it. I probably would have stopped streaming. We're all developed at different speeds. What do you call a non-female commentator? Aman. Whoa! That's a real knee slapper, that one, Mitch. You see, this is why it's so helpful having everybody in chat, because I don't need to focus that hard on keeping everyone entertained as we get the second race underway. The invention of the shovel was groundbreaking. Actually, while we have the opportunity and we're talking about groundbreaking inventions, the air fryer is easily the greatest invention mankind has ever made. The fact that you can cook anything in an air fryer is insane. Super convenient, no need for oil or anything. It's a lot more healthier than deep frying objects and deep frying foods, and it's just such a convenience. You don't have the risk of fires. Albeit, yeah, you do need to keep it in a bit of a relatively safe spot. No, I believe I didn't. Oh, for shovel ground. Yeah, okay. Yeah. This is one of the worst jokes I've ever heard. What did the horse say after it tripped? Help, I've fallen and I can't giddy up. Alright, everybody, thank you all so much for tuning into the Tier 2 stream. My name's Aman. It's been fantastic. I'm gonna call it a day there. I don't want to do this. Such a shit joke. Christ. No, I got one for you guys. Why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road? It got stuck in a crack. Good evening. Good evening. How kind of you to join us. What would bears be without bees? I don't know. What would they be without bees? Ears. I don't want to do commentary anymore. Why couldn't the bicycle stand up on its own? It was too tired. Oh my god. On God, Mitch, get me out of here. Can we please get the race underway? Oh god. Oh. A guy walks into a bar and gets disqualified from the limbo contest. Rib boiling water, you will be missed. Oh my Christ. Alright, we're done. That's the final one. We cannot be doing more. Pyro has given us the go-ahead. All the drivers are readying up as we're all ready to actually get the Brazilian Grand Prix underway this time. None of these puns or jokes will be needed anymore. Thank you so much to those who contributed with their outstanding humor. It's greatly appreciated. In February, March. No, but April, May. Yeah, no, this was a lovely halftime performance. Oh, I should have had Blood come into the room and like start singing or something. If we have like a halftime performance, maybe I should start doing that for my future streams. The little time gap that we have between qualifying and the race itself, we can have Blood come in and do a bit of a performance for the rest of you guys. I've tried to catch some fog earlier. I missed. God. What do you call a fish without an eye? Fish. Okay, 20 seconds. We're done. Oh, Christ. I don't even need to be here. You guys entertain yourselves. I'll have to quickly set up the settings again so that we're not missing out on too much. I don't think we're doing a formation lap this time around. I think the race is just going to get started off right from the get-go. So I'll have to be a bit quick. Res. Yeah, W res. Fish res. I'm not reading that knock. That's the end of it, blood. It's done. We're not I'm not giving any more of a spotlight to these horrible jokes than I already have. If anybody was sticking around through the halftime show, they've left by now. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all set to get the Brazilian Grand Prix underway. There's 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go here at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Ishtar gets off to a very, very nice start, and Erminator seems to be caught off guard as Jim going side by side with his teammate around the outside of turn 1. I believe there's a very slight amount of contact as the Mercedes drivers are still side by side with each other, but manages to retain P2. We can see Jim's dropping down into P3, Alu in P4, and Said in P5. Not many positions lost from the top 5 at the current moment. Looking down the grid, we can see that Jags moving towards making a dramatic dive down the inside of DDK and promoting himself up into P9. Looking at the front of the grid, Alu promoting himself up into P3, getting past Said, and Said getting past Trems, moving himself up into P4. A fantastic opening few corners here, as we've seen, as there's going to be any activity near the back of the grid. Well, a bunch of drivers extremely close to each other. Actually, never mind. It seems to be Jim who dropped off dramatically. He was in the top 3, but now is in P6 at the current moment. As we get a very nice camera angle. So, there's a bit of contact in the background there. And we can see a Williams that has gone spinning out. That seems to be Bambino, who's unfortunately been involved in some sort of incident and has ghosted his way through a bunch of positions, bringing our attention back up to the front of the grid. It seems to be Trems, who's 5 tenths away from P4 at the moment, as we're reminded that medium runners will be pitting around lap 21 to 23, as Trems now going around the outside of Jim. And Jim going side by side with the Haas and actually managing to keep the position, promoting himself up back into 5th. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that will be the end of lap 1. Said already almost a second off of Alu's pace, as Slimmy actually picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Meanwhile, we can see catching up to Ishtar, with the gap not being anything substantial at the moment. P1 to P3, very, very close together. Said, unfortunately, a bit far back on this occasion. Will Alu be making any sort of dives on Not as of yet. Decides to stay back at the current moment. We had a very nice opening lap here. Oh, actually, never mind. We have a virtual safety car here in lap 1. As there seems to be I believe that's an Alpine that has stopped out on track at the moment. No, that isn't an Alpine. Who is that? Oh, never mind. Oh, it was Alpine. It was Slimmy, who's unfortunately retired from the session. And we have a virtual safety car, so all drivers are going to need to slow down their pace. There's no overtaking under the VSC. And when green flags fly around the circuit, that's when we'll be going racing again. So we'll see if Ishtar is able to develop a bit of an advantage through the virtual safety cars. We've seen a lot of drivers are able to pull that off. It seems like and Alu sticking together with him as close as possible at the moment. Still under virtual safety car conditions, and now with green flags flying around the circuit, race control has given us the go-ahead that DRS will be enabled this lap. And we'll see how is able to keep up with Ishtar. He obviously has Alu in his rearview mirrors, so he's going to have to be extremely careful on going for dramatic lunges, as he doesn't want to compromise himself and lose out on a position. We can see Jim, who was in the top 3, has managed to bring himself up very, very nicely, back up into P4. And Said, currently still in P5, does have Trems completely covering up his rearview mirrors. Ooh, as Trems gets extremely sideways on that exit there. Really pushing the car to its absolute limit there, as we see him losing control of his car ever so slightly. And actually slightly dropping off from Ishtar at the current moment. We'll see if he has DRS on this occasion. You saw it was enabled. And no, it doesn't look like actually has DRS on Ishtar ahead, but Alu does have DRS on We can see Said getting extremely close to Jim at the current moment. Oh, as Jim gets extremely squirrely through turns 1 and 2, and now Saeed lining himself up for a beautiful overtaking opportunity with DRS wide open coming down the straight. Saeed Al-Falasi manages to promote himself up into P4. Looking down the grid, it doesn't seem like any other driver is really making any dramatic lunges at the moment. We've seen catch up to Ishtar through Sector 1 and 2, but it seems like through near the end of Sector 2, he loses out so much time. And Saeed slowly managing to promote himself up. We see Jim not letting that situation go at the moment, trying to keep up with Saeed as much as possible as we have a massive train forming here. A lot of drivers extremely close together, and the problems with the DRS train are always the fact that it's so difficult to overtake. You really have to focus on getting past. You just really have to be faster than them on the corners. But now Saeed, of course, without any DRS, will he be able to defend from Jim behind him? We're right on board with Jim to get a better idea of it, and with now DRS wide open, coming down the main straight, coming down the pit straight. Oh, the ERS? Yes. Should probably and we can see now Jim getting very close to Saeed. DRS wide open once again, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Saeed Al-Falasi is going to be able to hold his own at the current moment and stay in P4. Oh, I completely missed that. Yes, Erminator actually managed to get past Ishtar on that occasion. I was completely focused on the battle that was going on behind them. But yes, Erminator in the Mercedes has managed to get past Ishtar on this occasion. I also want to take a quick look at where Bambino is. He seems to be having a few issues of his own. 20 seconds down on P13. Most definitely had to come into the pits because of some sort of issue or some sort of collision he must have had. Most likely damage that he experienced. Riding on board with Ishtar now. He's obviously not going to want to get out of the DRS zone of as there's been an overtake at the back of the grid. We can see Saeed getting overtaken by Trems, unfortunately, but not letting the situation go with overtake completely in usage. Heading down towards turn 1. It seems to be 3 wide heading down into turn 1. Who's going to come out ahead? It seems to be at the current moment. Oh, it's hard to really tell, but it looks like Saeed Al-Falasi actually managed to make the overtake stick and got past Trems. We saw Zab completely out of nowhere show up, and now because of that late lunge, DDK manages to take advantage of the situation and promote himself back up into P8. And now we can see Ishtar, who's actually gotten past Erminator once again. Missing overtake for the lead. Such realistic F1 broadcasting. Of course, there's not much I can do when there's so much action taking place on track. Overtakes up and down the whole circuit. It's hard to keep up with everything. I wish there were more of me, otherwise it would have been easier. But the battle for the lead of the race continues. I guess we'll just put the rest of the battles on hold for the moment. and Ishtar battling out for P1 at the moment. As we ride on board with him once again. Did use a bit of overtake to maybe help him get a better run on Ishtar on this occasion. Heading down towards turn 1, DRS wide open. This is for the lead of the race once again. There is a flashing red light behind Erm's car, and he sends it down the inside of Ishtar. The Mercedes managing to get past the Ferrari, but will Ishtar be able to get a better run on this exit? It's not over yet, and now Ishtar will have DRS to make a potential overtake back on Erm. Heading down towards the end of the straight, but it looks like he's a bit too far back on this occasion to make the move stick. Ishtar is going to most likely have to tuck in right behind Erm for the rest of the lap, unless Erm makes a dramatic mistake. Why is Erm overtaking, wasting ERS? That is true. It's not really like it's helping him really get out of Ishtar's DRS zone, but Ishtar obviously doing a very, very nice job of keeping that gap between himself and P1 at the moment. Unfortunate for Saeed, who seemed to be the fan favorite, who dropped down from P5 to P7, but it's not over for him yet. Lap 7 of 36. 29 more laps to go. And now Ishtar once again lining himself up to get a better run at Erm. He's obviously got a lot more ERS than the Mercedes in front of him. DRS wide open now, as he's ever so slightly gaining on the Mercedes. Seems like he's going to be a bit too far back on this occasion to make the move stick. But he's going to try to get a very nice run out of these set of corners to maybe make a potential overtake down the second DRS zone. And now, once again, DRS wide open. Ishtar trying to catch up to Erm as much as he possibly can, but no, it's just not good enough on this occasion, as he's going to have to stay in P2 at the current moment. Meanwhile, we can see Jim making a move on the Red Bull of Jaguar, and Jim down the inside, managing to make the move stick and promoting himself up into P4. A very impressive move from him, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 2. It seems to be the Haas. I believe that might be Prime Tomcat. It was. Oh no, it isn't Prime Tomcat. It's Pyro, who's unfortunately had an incident of his own. It looks like he's lost his front wing. And now we can see DDK, who has a penalty at the moment. As we can see now, Saeed going side by side with Zabs, as there's that ghost. Oh, and there's collision. There's collision between Saeed and Zabs, as we saw Zabs completely pushed him off the track. Luckily for us, it doesn't look like Saeed faced any massive amounts of damage there, but he has dropped down into P11, and that definitely will be looking like a steward's report from him. And now we go back to the front of the grid. Ishtar 410 separating him and Erm. DRS wide open. Will he be close enough to maybe make an overtake heading into turn 1? At the moment, no, it will not. This is what I was talking about. There's just so many overtakes taking place here at Brazil. There's action on almost every single lap, and almost at every other segment. But now we can see Ishtar a lot closer on this occasion. DRS wide open. And oh, there's touching. There's collision between the Mercedes and the Ferrari driver. Ishtar tries to send it down the inside, but Erm with the better runner on the outside. There's collision. There's a massive collision between Ishtar and Erm. And unfortunately, Erm goes straight into the wall and suffers massive amounts of damage. As we can see, he does not have a front wing. Erm is going to be super upset about that, and now that opens a great possibility for Alu. If Ishtar has damage, then this is a wonderful opportunity for Alu to get past Ishtar, but we are under virtual safety car conditions. Never mind, Tier 2 can keep Ishtar. We were in store for some absolutely sensational racing there, but unfortunately there's been a massive collision between the front two runners, as Ishtar has taken Erm out, and now Erm without a front wing will definitely need to come back into the pits and get his car repaired if he has any chances to even finish on the podium at this point in the race. As we see, Blurry has picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Oh, Ishtar actually deciding to come into the pits himself. And Alu, Jim, Jaguar, all deciding to stay out along with Zabs. So it looked like Ishtar did face some front wing damage of his own. Surely that's Erm's fault? I don't think it's Ishtar's fault. Erm came there was plenty of space around the right side, I think. I don't think Erm had any reason to keep it as close to Ishtar as he did. If there's plenty of space out on track, like, yeah, there's close racing, yes, it's a fast corner and everything, but at the end of the day, if you're gonna make a lunge or a move around a corner like that, then you need to be able to leave enough space for your competitor as well. But so if you ask me, I definitely think that was Erm's fault, but I'm sure again, we'll have a better idea once if he decides to show us his POV on that incident. But judging from what I saw, it definitely didn't look like Ishtar's fault. We are back under racing conditions here. Obviously not a full floor force safety car. Yes, that's a very good point. Now we can see here Jim actually getting very, very close to Jaguar. Jim trying to send it around the outside, trying to get the switchback. There's massive touching between the Red Bull and the Mercedes driver. I'm very surprised Jaguar didn't lose his car there. Jim's going to need to control himself and control his racing, as he doesn't want to take out the Red Bull driver and get another Mercedes involved in another incident. He decides to stay back on this occasion. Both Mercedes drivers seemingly going through their own struggles at the moment in terms of clean racing. Ooh. Saeed unfortunately picks up a 3-second time penalty for what I believe to be track invalidations. We see DDK now getting into a battle with Trems, as his Trems up practically by that sudden camera jump. Didn't look like he left him enough space there. Tier 2 is going to need to work on his clean driving. This cannot continue. We're riding on board with Jim now. DRS wide open as he's trying to make a move for the second step on the podium. We know Alu has a 5-second advantage over the rest of the grid. But Jim, of course, a bit too far back on this occasion. Looking at Jags, he's a bit too far back. Looks like PSGL mayhem. As Mitty now picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lanes. Penalties after penalties by the looks of it. You can see getting past Zabs on this occasion. And Bambino sticking right with him now. Unfortunately for us, they are quite far down the grid. We know Jim has the pace to be faster than Jaguars. He's shown it through qualifying. But as we've seen already, the Mercedes drivers are just struggling with keeping it clean racing. If he just managed to keep it clean, he had a wonderful opportunity to line himself up out of turn 1 and turn 2, but unfortunately that pushing and shoving did cost him. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the Mercedes' DRS was wide open. But heading down towards turn 1, it seems, nope, Jim has looked like he's gotten back within the second gap. Yep. You can see Prime Tomcat actually getting past DDK, who's now coming out of the pits. And Jags getting extremely close to Trems. Both drivers fighting for P4 at the current moment. The Alfa Romeo looking like it's the quicker car out on track at the moment. Desperately trying to get past the Haas. Say roughly 2.7 seconds down to the closest driver to him. Jim once again trying to make a move on Jaguar. The Red Bull and the Mercedes have been at each other's throats for quite a few laps now. The gap is 6/10. I don't think it's enough to really close the gap between themselves, but Jim, assuming that he doesn't risk it again and make any silly mistakes, could be looking at a really good possible overtaking opportunity, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 2, and it seems to be the Red Bull. And I believe that's the Red Bull of Mini. And now with DRS wide open, we look again as Jim sends it down the inside of Jaguar this time around. Down the inside sends the Mercedes driver. And what a wonderful overtake that was. A lot cleaner than the last few attempts we've seen him try to make. And he promotes himself up into P2. Jaguar obviously not done with this positioning just as yet. He will try to stick with him as much as he possibly can. And maybe look to get him right back on the next DRS straight. Blurry getting extremely close to Said as well. 4.5 tenths separating P6 and P7 at the moment. Both drivers do have penalties as well. And Jaguar not letting Jim go whatsoever. He's going to send it down the inside. No, he decides to back out of it on this occasion. Really heavily considered it sending down the inside, but thought better of it. Thought he might get a better line out of these next few set of corners. And I don't think he really necessarily has. DRS once again wide open as he's trying to catch up to Jim. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough. He's going to absolutely have to send it, and he decides not to. Decides to play it safe. No point risking any silly overtakes so early on into the race. There is another overtake here at the back, and you can see Said getting Istra getting extremely close to Blurry. Said unfortunately dropping down into P8. Will Istra be sending it down the inside of this corner? No, he will not. Was trying to utilize the slipstream to his advantage and maybe trying to get a switch back around Blurry, but Blurry covers off that exit very, very nicely and prevents the Ferrari from making that overtake. But of course, Istra is not done with Blurry just as yet. Trying to line himself up to get a very, very nice run down the pit straight. And it looks like he will be getting this run down the pit straight. He is on a fresher set of hard tires. DRS wide open now. Istra decides to go around the outside of Blurry and gets the move done way before the corner even begins and promotes himself up into P6. I don't think... Oh, and along with that, Saeed utilizing the slipstream and the DRS that he had and managing to get past Blurry as well. So 2 cars managing to get past the Williams driver at the current moment. Now Saeed desperately with the DRS wide open, using a bit of his overtake. Will he send it down the inside of Istra? Decides to back out of it on this occasion as Istra parks his car in the middle of the track to prevent any overtaking opportunities from Saeed. Jaguar on the other hand, 9/10, almost a second separating him and Jim. The gap between P1 and P2 still remaining at 5.8 seconds as we have another yellow flag involving both a Haas and a Ferrari. It seems to be DDK and Prime Tomcat who were involved in that incident. And luckily for us, both drivers seem to be back on the roll again, so it doesn't look like we'll be having any virtual safety cars or safety cars, thankfully. Closest battle out on track at the moment is between Erms and Bambino. Bambino, who did start off the race at the back of the grid, as we have a spin up ahead in the form of Blurry. Bambino's teammate was unfortunately losing control of his car. Will lose out on multiple positions here by the looks of it, as we can see Jags now heading it into the pits after 16 laps on the soft tires. What a fantastic stint from him to keep those tires running as long as he did. And now we can see Bambino and Erm coming into a battle of their own. Erm managing to get past Bambino on this occasion, promoting himself up into P7. Overtakes left and right as we have another yellow flag in Sector 3. It seems to be the Ferrari of Ishtar. Oh no, it seems to be the Ferrari of DDK, who's unfortunately retired from the session. And that's going to look like it's it for Ishtar's teammate. However, we still have plenty of racing in store for us in the form of Bambino and Erm, as we can see. Both drivers separated by almost 5/10 a second, by almost 5/10. This does seem to be the closest battle out on track at the moment, as we have another yellow flag. I think that's DDK's Ferrari that's unfortunately come back out on the track, as Trems now heads into the pits with his 17-lap-old mediums and decides to go for an undercut of his own. We'll see how that pays off for him. We have another, yeah, that is the Ferrari of DDK, I believe, as race control gives mini turns a 3-second time penalty for another track invalidation. Hopefully that Ferrari out on track does not cause us too many issues. But by the looks of it, everything seems to be fine. Trems now exiting out of the pits with his fresh hard tires. We'll keep our attention on Bambino and Erm at the moment. Important to note that Alu has a 5.6 second gap on Jim at the moment. And Jaguar, who was in a battle with Jim of his own, with Jim, has unfortunately dropped down significantly. 2.5 seconds now the gap between P2 and P3. You can see Bambino is on the 15-lap-old mediums. Meanwhile, Erm is on his 8-lap-old hards. Istra getting past Jaguar on this occasion because he's coming into the pits now. No overtaking between these drivers at the moment. Bambino doesn't look like he's going to be close enough on this occasion. We'll have to stick behind him for another lap by the looks of it. You can see Zab trying to catch up to Blurry now. Both drivers on 18-lap-old tires, the only difference being Blurry is on the hard compound, meanwhile Zab is on the mediums. And Jaguar on his fresh hards, waiting to jump the first opportunity he sees to get past both these drivers. And Zab practically pushing Blurry along here. 4 drivers now side by side with each other. We can see now Jaguar going side by side with Zabs. Jaguar actually managing to make the overtake stick before the next corner even begins. And now Jaguar actually using that advantage that he has with the DRS, making the move down the inside, making the move around the outside into turn 1. Manages to promote himself up into P7. Now we can see here Blurry actually managing to retain P8 and Jags getting into a battle with Zabs and promoting himself up into P9. So these 4 drivers getting into a battle with each other left, right, and center. We can see Jags once again trying to get past Blurry. Sends it down the inside of this corner. We saw incidents taking place here earlier, and they're still side by side with each other. Clean racing from both drivers as the Alfa Romeo finally manages to get past the Williams and promotes himself up into P8. That's some good clean racing. A nice change of pace from what we were experiencing earlier. I can't imagine it's much longer now before Alu, Jim, Saeed, or Bambino decide to come into the pits for their own pit stops. 15 laps to go in this race. We are over halfway through this race. And now Zab with DRS wide open, obviously having Trems in his rearview mirror. Who's going to come out on top over here? We have to remember Blurry is in P9. We can see Zabs now going side by side with Jim, trying to make the move stick. And now we can see completely out of nowhere, Trems making a fantastic run around the outside of Zabs. And we can see Zabs has gone completely straight on, has completely missed the corner. And because of that, he drops down 2 positions. Trems manages to get past both drivers and promotes himself up into P9. Blurry drops down into P10. And Zabs, unfortunately, losing out on 2 positions and going down all the way into P11. He's not going to be happy with himself. They're completely missed an opportunity to maybe get past both the drivers, but unfortunately, it's completely turned around for him. As all drivers now have quite a decent gap amongst each other. 6.2 seconds separating Jim and Alu at the moment. Ishtar obviously on those 11-lap old hards. Will most likely retain net P1 unless there's going to be a safety car or anything. You can see Bambino with the 18-lap old hards, and we can see Saeed now 20-lap old mediums. He calls it quits, decides to go into the pits and switch off of those medium tire compounds, and decides to just put on the softs to the end of the race. 14 laps he has to keep them running. Keep an eye on him and see how he manages to keep up with, and we'll keep an eye on his pace for the next few laps. And we can see completely ignored Bambino getting very close to Erminator once again. These 2 drivers have practically been pushing each other along. Bambino's mediums are surely coming towards their wits' end. I'm surprised he's managing to keep up with Irma on those 12-lap old hards at the moment. As Alu, the race leader at the current moment, has now decided to come into the pits. Jim following suit. Ishtar, of course, on the hard tires is going to retain P1 after coming in for his pit stop way earlier in the race. Jim and Bambino now coming side by side with each other. We can see Erminator around the outside trying to make the move stick. They're still side by side heading towards turn 1. Who's going to come out ahead? We can see Bambino now with the inside line, sends it down the inside and manages to retain the position and keeping himself in P3. It looked like there for a moment Erminator was going to finally get past Bambino, but no, not on this occasion. Now trying to line himself up, DRS open once again, trying to make the move stick, heading down this DRS straight and keeping that inside line. It looks like is, as a matter of fact, going to eventually get the move done and manages to promote himself up into P3. We see Bambino has unfortunately picked up a 3-second time penalty through that racing. Must have gone off the track, unfortunately. Alu actually coming out of the pits and retaining P2. And he is on the soft tire compounds. 8.9 seconds is the gap between him and Ishtar. It'll be very interesting to see if he can catch up to him by the end of the race. Of course, no safety cars, no virtual safety cars, not really helping or Bambino at this current moment. Bambino would like nothing more than another safety car to come out at this lap. And Bambino deciding enough's enough. 20 laps is all he's going to do on the mediums, heads into the pits, and unfortunately picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lanes. In moments like that, you have to be so careful. And now we can see Jim with his fresh softs trying to make a move on Jags. You can just see the difference in grip both these cars have. And now Jim, down the inside he goes. DRS wide open. It's not really going to be much of a fight between him and Jags. And Jim with the inside line, managing to make the move stick and promotes himself up into P5. The gap was roughly 9 seconds, only a lap or so ago. And Alu already bringing it down to roughly 7 seconds now. The pace on the soft tire compounds is very, very much real. Jaguar's in a pretty good position himself. 5 laps on his hard tire compounds. He has Erminator in front of him. He's definitely going to be starting to feel the wear and tear and the loss of grip on his hard tires. As we can see now, approaching the DRS zone, Jaguar with DRS wide open, 4.5 tenths separating the gap, but Erm decides to go into the pits and decides to switch off of his 14-lap old hards. We can see another overtaking opportunity between Jim and Jaguar, as Jim is practically pushing that Red Bull along. I'm very surprised there isn't any contact between the drivers and he hasn't caused him to spin out. DRS wide open once again. Jim, will he be able to get past Jaguar? I will be very surprised if he won't be able to with the soft tire compound. Sends it down the inside, and there's a bit of, it looked like there was a bit of contact between both drivers, but no, Jim manages to make the move stick and promotes himself up onto the podium positions. 5 seconds is now the gap between Alu and Ishtar. That gap is coming down extremely quickly. Alu showing his pace on those soft tires. Trum's trying to maintain that gap to Jags. 6 tenths separating P6 and P5 at the moment. And assuming that he gets a very nice exit out of this corner, he may be looking to line himself up for a very nice overtaking opportunity. DRS wide open now, as he's very slowly gaining on the Alfa Romeo. But unfortunately, of course, I don't think it was much of a surprise. He was a bit too far back on this occasion to make the overtake stick. Now coming through turn 1 and turn 2, once again DRS wide open, 5 tenths, 4.5 tenths now separating Trems and Jags, but once again a bit too far back to make the overtake stick. It's only 10 more laps left to go in this race. If you are just joining us, Ishtar is leading this race with his 16-lap-old hards, but we don't know how much longer he's going to be able to keep that position. As we can see, Alu, there's been a bit of contact by the looks of it, or it looked like Jags completely lost his car. Trems managing to make the overtake and promoting himself up into P5. Not too sure what happened there with Jags. And we have a yellow flag in Sector 1 as it seems to be an AlphaTauri that has gone off the track. And we have a full-fledged safety car with 10 laps left to go. What does this mean for Ishtar, who's unfortunately just barely missed out on the pit entrance? And we can see Jim taking full advantage, going into the pits, but unfortunately picking up a 5-second penalty as he does. And most of these drivers now coming back into the pits to switch onto a fresh tire compound. As we can see Jim serving his 5-second penalty to move on to his fresh set of softs. Alu most likely will be retaining that soft tire compound as he's having to overtake the safety car, as Ishtar unfortunately missed it earlier. So we have gone that one safety car as we were talking about earlier. And I think I want to take a look at how many penalties everyone's accumulated. So as we can see, Minis unfortunately got a drive-through. We see Bambino with 8 seconds worth of penalties, which is definitely going to hinder his chances to pull off the last to first, unfortunately. Erminator and Jim got 5 seconds of their own, both Mercedes drivers struggling with penalties of their own. We can see Prime with 6 seconds, Hyped with 5 seconds. And as there's really not much of a surprise, the only driver who's unfortunately lost out on this scenario is Ishtar, but I'm fairly certain he's most likely going to come into the pits on this occasion and switch off of those hard tire compounds. 17 laps is not it. And Alu, of course, Alu decided to come into the pits as well. And I don't think Jaguar's actually going to be close enough to make this overtake land between to get past the leader. So by the looks of it, luckily for Ishtar, he's going to retain P1 at the moment. For a second, I thought Alu got past him in the pits, but no, it was just him coming in for a stop. So then, ladies and gentlemen, we will be riding on board with Ishtar through the safety car as the rest of the grid bunches up behind it. Everybody maintains the same pace, and it'll be up to Ishtar at the end of the safety car to decide when to go to catch the rest of the grid off guard. While we have a chance to take a breather, let's take a look at the standings at the current moment. So Ishtar, as we were talking about earlier, is leading this race. Alu not too far behind him, currently in P2, Jaguar in P3, Trems in P4, Erms in P5, Jags in P6, Said in P7, Hyped in P8, Jim in P9, and Bambino, who moves himself up into P9 because Jim is currently in the pits. Ishtar got penalty in the pits. Oh, he did. A 5-second penalty for Ishtar. There's only 8 more laps left to go in this race. He's going to need to really pull off one hell of a stint if he looks to create as big of a gap as he wants to maybe not let that penalty come into effect. You told him 3 times? Poor race engineer. Very unfortunate for Ishtar. However, the race is far from over now. I think there's no point looking at the penalties. What's more interesting to look at is all the drivers have now, each and every driver on the grid has moved on to the soft tire compound. And with what I assume to be not more than maybe 7 more laps of racing to go, I think we're going to have some very, very interesting final few laps. Coming towards the end of Sector 2, will race control give us the update? Will the safety car come at the end of this lap, come into the pits at the end of this lap? I'm pretty sure it would. It looks like the whole grid has basically bunched up with each other, so I don't think we'll be having another lap behind the safety car. We'll see in just a few moments. Alu looking to be in a very promising position with no penalties of his own. As we come towards the end of Sector 2, it does not look like the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, unless it's a very last minute call by race control. Oh, yep, it is an extremely late call from race control, and now it is up to Ishtar to bunch up the rest of the grid and go at a time he deems best. He obviously has to catch Alu off guard, so it'll be interesting to see when Ishtar decides to go, if he's going to possibly take it to the last possible second. And now, boom, there he decides to go. He has caught Alu slightly off guard, and now Alu has to worry about Jaguar in his rearview mirrors. Will Jaguar send it down the inside? No, he will not. Decides to stay back for the current moment. Looking down the grid, we can see a few drivers going side by side with each other. trying to make a possible overtake on Trems, but unfortunately nothing doing yet. Trems looks like he's going to be retaining P4, but no, looks like he's gotten a fantastic run out of that corner, and he's gonna have to send it around the outside of the AlphaTauri. But no, with the inside line, Trems manages to retain the position and stays in P4. However, Erminator's line compromised him heavily as Jack King's now sending it down the inside, but no, continues to retain the position and stays in P5. There's a bit more racing going around in the background there as Hyped around the outside, trying to make the move stick on Said, and Said getting a double overtake done, or attempting to do so around the outside of Jags, but no, nothing doing yet. And Said will be staying in P7 at the current moment, bringing our attention back towards the front of the grid. Ishtar 5/10 separating him and P2. Obviously, we don't have any DRS within the first few laps of the safety car ending, so drivers are going to have to purely rely on their batteries and the slipstream to get past one another. Doesn't look like they're going to be close enough to do so on this occasion. Looking down the grid, it doesn't look like there's any other possible overtaking opportunities. However, Saeed possibly opening that window. We can see Erm getting past Trems up ahead. And Saeed unfortunately unable to get past Jack Kings once again. Will Trems get a very nice run out of this corner. He doesn't seem to be using much battery. It doesn't look like he's going to really be making that overtake stick, as all drivers are retaining their positions at the current moment. Alu now roughly 6/10 behind Ishtar. 5 laps to go in this race. Ishtar needs 5 laps to pull off a 5-second gap to P2 and P3. It's a very, very big ask, but with F1, you really never know. The race is definitely back on, as all drivers are now back on their soft tire compounds. And we can see Trems trying to keep up with Erm, but it doesn't look like he's going to be... Actually, he may actually have an opportunity to make a move heading down into turn 1. Jaguar already a second off of Alu's pace. Alu 4.5 tenths away from Ishtar this time around. And DRS has been enabled this time around. So now we ride on board with Alu, who has set the fastest time of the race with a 109.9. Trying to keep up with Ishtar. Will he have DRS? Yes, he will. Obviously, he's a bit too far back on this occasion to make the move stick, but it will help him keep within that DRS gap to P1. We see Trems now trying to keep up with Erm. We can see Saeed trying to get past Jags, who unfortunately has Hyped in his rearview mirror, and Hyped, as a matter of fact, not looking to stay around in that position, trying to send it around the outside. A brilliant move from the McLaren driver as he manages to make the move stick and promotes himself up into P7. Fantastic racing there from Hyped as he moves himself up a position and now looks to maybe making a possible overtake on Jags, as we have a yellow flag in sector 2. It does look to be blurry in the Williams, who had some sort of no, it seems to be Saeed who got involved in some sort of incident there and unfortunately has dropped down significantly within the last few laps. Extremely painful for him, but we keep our attention towards the front of the grid now. Alu unfortunately 9.5 seconds off of P1. We can see Trems 5.5 tenths away from P4. Hyped with DRS wide open. The DRS train has formed between some of these drivers, so it'll be just that much harder to overtake on the straights. Hyped is going to have to rely on his pace through the corners to maybe look to lining himself up to make a very nice overtake on the car in front of him. It doesn't look like anyone's really close enough to make an overtake stick. And no, they are not. Alu actually looked like Ishtar made some sort of mistake there. 4 tenths now separating Alu and Ishtar. Both drivers keeping it as close to each other as they possibly can. Trems 3 tenths behind as there's been an overtake at the back over here. We can see Hyped and Bambino both side by side heading into the next corner. There's contact between both drivers. Bambino with the inside line trying to make that move stick. It's still side by side with the McLaren driver. Both drivers not letting up any bit of room with each other, but it looked like Hyped has managed to make the move stick. Trems now on the other hand trying to line himself up equally as nicely to make a possible move for P4 at the current moment. 2.5 tenths separating both the drivers. DRS now wide open, lap 33 of 36. Trems, which way is he going to go? Is he going to go around the outside? He's going to send it down the inside of the Mercedes, heading down into turn 1. And now Trems in the AlphaTauri sends it down the inside and manages to make the move stick. And with that, Erminator gets set very off guard as now the Alfa Romeo of Jax tries to make a move, as we have a bunch of more overtakes going on in the background there. We can see Bambino now coming into an attack from Jim, who has managed to promote himself up into P7. Meanwhile, in the background there, both the McLaren drivers switching positions by the looks of it, as Zab sends it down the inside of his teammate and manages to make him promote himself up into P9. Looking at the front of the grid, meanwhile, Jags gets past Jim once again, promoting himself. No, he does not. Oh, never mind. It's Trems and Erm who are in a battle with each other. There seems to be a bit of contact between some of these drivers, as a bunch of these drivers are now bunched up together, all fighting for P4 at the current moment. Erminator currently in P4. Trems now coming into an attack of his own from Jim. Jim around the outside of the AlphaTauri, trying to make the move stick. And now with the inside line, will he be able to retain the position? It looks like he will be able to. Jim and Erm managing to keep the Mercedes in P4 and P5 respectively. Incredible racing that we're seeing from these drivers in the last few laps now. Will Jim overtake his teammate? I don't think he has much of a choice. Sends it down the inside of his teammate and managing to promote himself up into P4. We can see in the background Trems trying to follow suit and maybe take advantage of that overtake, but unfortunately he's unable to. staying back in P6 at the current moment. As we can see, Bambino went very, very sideways there, and that compromised himself, allowing Hyped to make that overtake stick. And now Jags trying to get past him. There's a bit of contact near the front of the grid as Hyped, as Aerominator and Trems come into a battle of their own, and Trems unable to make the overtake stick on the Mercedes driver. Oh, it looked like very late braking there from Bambino as he's looking to get past Hyped as soon as possible. And Hype trying to send it around the outside, unfortunately unable to. Oh, sorry, Jags trying to send it around the outside, but unfortunately unable to as Bambino gets all sorts of out of shape out of that corner there. So we can see both the Mercedes drivers as there's a bit of a gap forming between Erm and Jim at the moment. Erm is going to be trying to hold up Hype as much as he can. It is the penultimate lap of this race. And Trems looks like he's gotten an extremely nice run out of this corner. DRS, without even DRS enabled at the current moment, it looks like he's going to make the overtake stick and manages to get past him. Meanwhile, Hyped, taking advantage of the slower cars. DRS wide open, managing to get past both the drivers at the current moment. There's 3 wide heading into turn 1, and it seems to be Hyped who's come out ahead of the rest of the grid. Trems managing to retain P6 ahead of Erminator. Jim, surprisingly out of keeping P4 at the moment. We saw there was a big gap between him, and now Erm not done with Trems just as yet, sending it down the inside of the DRS straight. Erm with the inside line. Will he be able to make those overtakes stick? As we can see, Trems going unfortunately a bit wide there. There's 3 wide coming through this corner. There's massive contact between the drivers as Erm has unfortunately DNF'd from the race along with Trems, who's been involved in his own incident. Unfortunately, those drivers came into contact with each other. 3 wide into that corner does not fit, and unfortunately that's going to be the end of Erm's race, who drove a fantastic session for us. And through it all, it does come down to the final few corners and the final lap. Absolutely sensational racing that we've seen here. Unfortunate for Urbinator that the race had to end this way with contact, but nothing can be taken away from Ishtar in the Ferrari, who drove a seemingly perfect race as he comes across the line and wins the Brazilian Grand Prix. Alu coming around in P2, but unfortunately for Ishtar's penalty will unfortunately be dropped down into P2. So as a result, Alu gets promoted up into P1. Ishtar drops down into P2. Jaguar in P3. Jim in P4. Jags, because of the penalties with Hyped and Zav, gets promoted up into P5. Hyped and Zav respectively getting in P6 and 7. Trems in P8. Bambino in P9. And Said in P10. What a race. I'm going to need to take a breather after that one. Wow. I had to take a bit of a breather there as we're trying to get the rest of the drivers up for interviews. We'll see if they're available to do them. Sensational racing as we've seen. Couldn't find Ishtar's Discord ad, unfortunately. We'll see if any of the drivers would be down to do interviews. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead for one of them, so I'll just conduct the interviews anyways. Hello, hello, Ishtar. Congratulations on your podium, man. Talk me through your race. How was it from your perspective?
I
A bit distraught over the penalty.
yeah. And I don't know why I couldn't see the thing at the top. I don't know why I didn't just look at my own speedometer and it said 51. I'm like, oh my fucking god, I've actually just.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was a bit unfortunate there. I think Mitchell was saying in the chat as well that he tried to warn you as much as he possibly could, but
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't just take it so cautious. Normally I do. That one time I didn't. I was like, hey,
oh,
it's
yeah,
the heat in
well,
it. I'll blame the heat.
yeah, it's a perfect excuse, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I get you, man. It's unfortunate that that penalty really costed you that race win, but again, you can't really take away from what was an overall pretty solid performance from your end. Like,
I
I,
mean, after I was murdered.
I mean, you say that, but still finishing in P2 after what was overall a super chaotic race. I'm sure when you rewatch the stream, or look at the stewards reports tonight, you'll see how absolutely horrible it was because of all the collisions and stuff. But yeah,
You know
the
the meme of the plane with the face and there's like explosions in the background. That's kind of what I felt was going on at points.
no, 100%. Oh man, but generally speaking, though, I have to say you drove an absolutely outstanding race, man. I know it's unfortunate you didn't get the race win, but a lot of positives to take away from this weekend, and I'm sure you'll be able to. I'm not too sure what the next race is or where we're going.
Is it Singapore or is it Monaco? I can't tell.
Oh, please don't tell me it's Monaco.
If it's Monaco, I'm gonna kill myself.
I can't blame you. If it's Monaco, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm not gonna commentate. Yeah, it's Monaco.
I need Paul next week.
Oh my god, I'm trying to add all this so I can invite him. Unfortunately, I can't seem to invite him to the party. But
In the grand scheme of things, I'm more just.
yeah, no, definitely, I 100% understand what you're saying. But alas, I think for what it's worth, a big congratulations for still finishing up on the podium. I think yeah, no, you managed to pull off quite a substantial gap before, like, in the like after the final safety car.
That nobody on stream can hear anybody because they haven't allowed their voice to be shared.
Oh well, that's. Oh well. Huh.
Wait, voice chat saying.
You might have to
Voice aloud.
share your voice is allowed. It's odd. I mean, I can hear you loud and clear. I'm not too sure why the stream isn't able to pick up your audio.
As long as you can hear me, baby, then you don't win.
Oh, of course, how sweet. Yeah, but I'll let you go relax as well. I know so many laps around a circuit like this, sure as I was about to swear, but sure as hell would drain me the hell out. But so I'll let you go relax yourself. I'll have a word with Alu as well. Anything you want to say to Alu before you head off? All right. Well.
Good job, I guess I don't know.
All right. Well. Thank you for your time, Mister. You go enjoy yourself and relax.
Booting me out.
No, I mean you can stay and listen if you want, but I gotta bring my attention over to the race winner now, don't I?
Don't wait.
Alu, a big congratulations on your race win, man. Obviously not finishing ahead of Ishtar out on track, but of course that penalty did save you. Talk me through your race. How was it from your perspective? Oh? No? Nothing? Alright, cool. Good talk.
Hold on, I'll do
when I take the mute off, everything starts working, right?
Okay. But yeah, big congratulations, man. Talk me through your race. How was it from your perspective?
To be quite honest with you, it was quite lonely. I mean, most of the race I spent alone. I didn't really have any battles. It was like I was just trying to hang back and follow Ishtar and Erminator, and then there was the incident. Don't know what really happened there, but then I noticed Erm on the outside, and yeah, then I decided to gamble and stay out, go onto the softs, but then everyone's strategies just went out of the window at the end, and Yeah, I was so focused on the at the final safety car restart to the end. I didn't even notice I got the fastest lap.
Yeah, you did. I think it was a 109.9 or 109.8. I'm not entirely too sure myself, but yeah, an extra point for you. So no complaining from that. A race win and an extra point. But no incidents that you were involved in. It's crazy how you tell me it was a lonely race for you because the rest of the grid were in shambles throughout that entire race. It was absolute mayhem at the back of the grid.
Yeah, I noticed some yellow flags here and there, but didn't really see much of it as I was driving alone at the front. And to be quite honest, my game plan was to just avoid the traffic and do my own race, and this time it paid off. I'm really happy with that. Just the morale boost I need for the move. I'm about to move house, so.
Perfect, man. Well, a big congrats for that. We head to Monaco next time around. We obviously got Ishtar's opinion that we both will mutually kill ourselves if we have to do Monaco. But what are your thoughts on it? Are you excited to do God knows how many laps around the most boring track on the circuit, on the calendar?
I think it's 40 plus laps, and well, to be completely honest with you, I mean, if you just can keep your wing intact and avoid traffic, that's the key to the win. And well, not exactly looking forward to it, but let's see how the story unfolds.
Yeah, me neither. But alas, I'll let you guys go. You guys can go and relax yourselves. You guys drove an absolutely outstanding race. Sure, it may not have ended out as Ishtar you may have hoped, but alas, I'm sure there's a lot of positives you can take away from this weekend that you can look forward to for the next one.
Yeah, big thank you from my side to Ishtar. I mean, your pace was out of this world, and the win should have belonged to you. But yeah,
the game's the game.
The game's the game. Exactly.
Right, well, you heard it here, everybody. We head down to Monaco next time around. I don't look forward to it. I'm sure nobody else does either. But thank you all for tuning in for Tier 2 this time around. We'll see you all next week.